We're all adults here, right? Like, we're all accepting and open to other people's opinions being different from ours, especially when it comes to the Trails games, right? Good, because I think Trails 3 is my favorite game so far. Let's talk about it. Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you've missed my reviews for Trails in the Sky first and second chapter, click the card up in the corner of this video and definitely go check those out before watching this one. Now, I have to admit that when I first started getting into the Trails of the Sky games, I was pretty lukewarm after the first game, as most of you know if you watched my first review. I decided that I was going to push through that game and go to the second game and play that and give it a shot, and if I didn't like second chapter, then I would just dip out of the series and just decide it's not for me. But if you've watched my last review, you know that second chapter quickly became one of my favorite JRPGs of all time. It's so stinking good. And after I finished that game, I was very much looking forward to Trails in the Sky the Third. And after having finished that game, I can say that I really love this series. I'm also bummed out that Trails in the Sky 3 is over and my time with these characters is done, I think. Now, in previous videos, y'all had left comments telling me, hey, Trails in the Sky 3 is different from first and second chapters, so just be aware of that when you go into it. And yeah, it's definitely different. There's no towns to visit, or at least you can't explore them like you could before. There's no NPCs to chat with, and in a few ways, Trails in the Sky the Third is kind of more like a dungeon crawler with how it's set up. And the side quests in this game are definitely structured differently than in the past games. All of those are the reasons why I love Trails in the Sky the Third so much. Now, at this point, I just want to throw out a spoiler warning. I'm going to talk about this game's story, certain plot points, and certain things that show up at the doors that you go through. So if you don't want anything spoiled about this game, this is your opportunity to duck out, pause the video, go play the game on easy because you'll get through it pretty quick, and then come back to the review. But at least know this before you head out. I greatly enjoyed this game and really think the trilogy as a whole is well worth playing. Yes, even first chapter. Now, let's dive into the story of Trails in the Sky the Third. Trails 3 kicks off with Kevin crashing a party to retrieve an ancient relic, you know, as you do when you're a heretic hunting priest of the Grossritter. Really hope I pronounced that correctly. Now, Kevin was my favorite character of Trails in the Sky second chapter when he was introduced. I just love that he was like Vash the Stampede. His character, his, what's the word when you have like you're a mysterious persona around you, whatever that is, just how mysterious he was, how cool he was. You didn't know if you could really trust him, but by the end of the game, you're like, dude, this guy is really cool. There's more to him and I want to know more about him. And it's like the developers knew that would happen. So they said, hey, here's a third game where all you do is play as Kevin. You actually play as more characters, but the game primarily focuses on Kevin. Now, after Kevin retrieves this relic and has a super flashy exit on this blip, the opening had me grinning ear to ear the whole time. It was such a cool entrance to this game. But after his escape, he's reunited with Reese Argent, who is a girl that he grew up with within the Septian Church. Her sister, Rufina, actually took Kevin in and raised him because they found him homeless on the streets. Which, side note, something I really loved about this game is how much backstory you got of Kevin, Reese, and Rufina, and how that all played into what's going on in this game. I'll get into the backstory stuff later, but I just loved how they did that. Now, the thing is, when you meet Reese, she's kind of bitter and cold towards Kevin. There's definitely something going on there that has you wondering, okay, what exactly happened between these two? Because now I'm totally intrigued. Why are you mad at my boy Kevin? You gotta let me know. But as they're reminiscing and kind of getting caught up and they're starting to talk and make some headway towards reconciliation, some kind of spiritual crazy stuff happens and they wind up getting transported into this place called Phantasma. Now, when they first arrive in Phantasma, they arrive in this library that has bookshelves upon bookshelves, stone furniture everywhere. It's definitely kind of creepy and unsettling, but intriguing in that way too. As they explore Phantasma, they realize there's multiple levels to Phantasma, and their guide in this game is this talking cube, who we later find out is one of the previous queens of the land, Celeste. The library serves as your hub for the game, kind of a place that you'll go to in between each chapter before you go to the next realm. And what I liked about this is that there's so many different levels within Phantasma that there's different beasts and puzzles and things like that awaiting you, and it's super easy to fast travel around to them because of this cube, which Thank goodness that they set the game up that way. It was super easy to get around different places. It was easy to return to doors that you got to, but I'm getting ahead of myself here a little bit. Now, something I want to touch on a little bit that this series has been good at doing so far is just fleshing out the different parts of this world. But one of the things that they never really got too in depth about was the religion of the Septian Church, which is what they get into in this game. So when you encounter some of these demons or monsters or different areas that you go to, Kevin or Reese will make a comment or note about how this is similar to one of the texts that they have that they've read about. And I'm like, this is so cool, especially when you examine Phantasma, because really it's kind of similar to the Catholic depiction of hell, with there being multiple levels of it, which I don't know if that was intended it to be the case, but that's kind of how it, at least that's what it made me think of, is that they probably modeled this after Catholicism to a degree, and it makes sense because it's fitting for a video game landscape sort of thing with how it's depicted. And what's even more interesting is that you actually wind up going to Gehenna, which is this world's version of hell, closer to the end of the game. That is where some really heavy stuff happens. But needless to say, being a Christian and really enjoying getting into some deep study about theology and philosophy and things like that, the fact that this game went into those particular areas and developed that part of the world more immediately had me intrigued. I was like, okay, I want to learn more about this now. This is super fascinating to me. But kind of returning back to Kevin, Kevin is the main character of this game, but he's not the only character in this game. As you explore Phantasma, you come across these yellow gems that when you take them back to the library and open them up, you get a new character added to your party that you've had in previous games. Or you might get a character that hasn't been in your party in the last 2 games, but you definitely know who they are. These things reminded me a lot of the old, what was it, Disney chocolate balls, or was it like Nestle or something that you'd get in the 90s? Like it would have a character inside of it, or a card or a sticker or something like that. Does anybody remember those? I always remember getting those all the time and just being super giddy about whatever I got out of the ball. So I would get really giddy when I take these things back to the library to see who would join my party next. And plus, after getting everyone from those little yellow gems and seeing them all together, it was awesome. It was like a high school reunion you actually wanted to go to because you liked everybody there. Probably isn't a real thing, but you get what I'm saying. It was cool to see everybody come back together for this game. And easily the strongest thing about these games are its characters. One of my issues that I talked about in my first review of the first game, makes it sound like I did multiple reviews of the first game, I didn't feel like I got enough time with those characters. Now, second chapter improved on that by letting me swap the characters that I wanted in and out of my party and getting to talk to them and getting more story bits about them. Now, Trails in the Sky the Third continued that by allowing me to continue to swap the characters I wanted in my party in and out of my party and talking to them in the library. But what was even more interesting is that because of it added these new characters to my party that I've met before, but I've never had them in my party in the last 2 games, I got to talk to characters like Richard, Josette, and Mueller. So I love the addition of these new characters to my party in a sense, and especially since I could use their skills in my party. Ren especially was a juggernaut because her scythe had the death skill attached to it. It was pretty wild seeing this little girl with a scythe go up to a big monster or something, swipe her scythe at it once, and then boom, they're dead. It's like, it's just so... It's awesome. And this game doesn't really have towns to visit in the traditional sense because of how Phantasma is and how it's reconstructed a lot of things from Kevin's past and present. You do revisit a lot of the towns from the first 2 games, but there's no NPCs, no job boards. So that means getting side quests in this game looks different. And in this game, the side quests are relegated to these doors that are broken up into 3 different categories: sun, moon, and star doors. Now, sun doors are more minigame based, while moon and star doors are dedicated to giving you more backstory about the characters or showing you different events that took place either in those characters' history or in the history of the land of Zumeria. Am I saying that right? Zumeria? Words are hard. And y'all, I'm gonna be honest, I loved these doors. I wasn't sure how I'd feel about the doors at first, especially since the first door that you open is, I believe, a moon door for Tita, and it's a long cutscene. The moon doors are probably the longest cutscenes that you'll have in the game, which I didn't mind because I'm getting more of the characters that I enjoy, and I'm getting some backstory to boot while meeting some new characters. Like Tita's parents are hilarious. And I'm gonna be honest, I opened every single door in the game. I made it a point to find every door in the game. So I found all of the sun doors, all of the moon doors and all of the star doors and opened every single one. I didn't complete 2 of the sun doors, the minigame based ones, on nightmare difficulty because if I'm honest, the fishing baron can go drown himself in a river. Dude is a cheap cheater. Hated it. I didn't really care for Campanella's quiz door because it just, anytime you put a timer on something and you have to make me pick an answer, it stresses me out. But it was kind of fun to see how much I remembered from the last 2 games, and turns out I remember quite a bit. I just don't really like quizzes. It stressed me out too much, and I hated fishing in this game because it was more of a competition and based off luck, and I wasn't really vibing with that, as the kids say.
How do you do, fellow kids?
What?
But I did complete them all on hard, and I did complete the arena on nightmare mode. I'm not sure why my Steam achievement didn't pop for it, because I totally did finish it, but oh well, I can definitely say I did it, and I have a save that proves it.
Got him! Got him!
I really liked these doors because it gave me, again, it gave me so much backstory to the characters and events. And so I feel like I know not only the characters better, but just the land that this game takes place in. And I'm super excited to get to Crossbell, to get to Erebonia, and see how the events of this game and its past has affected the lands that I'm going to visit in the other games. Now, y'all warned me about the last 3 star doors in this game, that they're going to hit hard, they're going to be crazy, they're going to be wild, and doors 13 and 14 definitely contain some fascinating bits of story. Door 14 kind of surprised me a little bit because at the end of the second game, you kind of get some hints that there's like this kind of secret organization, Illuminati sort of thing working in the background that is over Ouroboros, and it's like, okay, what's really going on here? And you see more of that in door 14, and it gave me some strong Evangelion vibes with the secret organization they have, which is what, Sele, I can't remember how they pronounce it, but it's the one with the different eyes and the prism type shape. It just gave me a lot of vibes like that, and I was like, this is cool. I want to see more. But door 15, Ren's door? I was not ready for that. This game is definitely the darkest in tone in comparison to the other 2 games, but man, despite y'all's warnings, I was not ready for door 15. That one, wow. I'm just glad that Lo and, is it Lo or Lao? I'm just glad that Lo and Joshua got there and gave those monsters what they deserved. Wish they could have done more, but I'm glad at the end of the day, Ren was rescued, and now I understand her character more and why she acts the way that she does. And to be honest, I don't really blame her. And really, at its core, that's kind of what Trails from the Sky the Third is about, is dealing with your past. Kevin's past comes to haunt him in this game because Phantasma, we come to find out, is a counterbalance to the Oriole that needed a host. And since the Oriole's destroyed, we did that in second chapter, the Phantasma was looking for a host and found it in Kevin, which was a cool twist because it made these dark things in his past that he wasn't letting anybody see. It came to light, and really the best way to deal with stuff in your past is to shine a light on it and overcome it. And I liked how they wrote that into this game. I thought it was really well done. And come to find out, Kevin, like Joshua, he has a stigma that gives him some incredible power, but when he first used it, had a nasty consequence when it was unleashed, because he winded up killing Rofina, Reese's sister, while he was trying to protect Asterhouse from this raid from these Jaegerists. And really ever since then, you see this in the game that it's haunted him ever since then. And he hasn't really dealt with it until this game has forced him to do it. And this really comes to bear when Kevin and Reese enter Gehenna, where they meet some of the most haunting memories of Kevin's, specifically dealing with Kevin's mother and this boy who got turned into a monster that he had to kill. Kevin's been through some stuff, and he hasn't really dealt with any of it. And I like how they wrote that into this story, because Kevin finally deals with it, and he comes to grips with the fact that, yeah, he's dealt with some really heavy things, but he doesn't have to bear the burden alone, and he can find forgiveness for it. I love a good redemption story. And really, this game had all the things that I love about a good story. A broken main character who doesn't feel like he deserves forgiveness. An eclectic cast of characters that are all a joy to be around. And some religious stuff going on that's kind of crazy, but kind of cool at the same time. And just an addictive gameplay loop that I've been playing for the last 2 games. Seriously, the combat is still good in this game. I mean, if it's not broken, you know, you don't need to fix it. And they just kept the same formula because it works, it's good, and it's fun. And so by the time that I reached the end of this game, it hit me that this was the last game in the Trails in the Sky trilogy, and my time with these characters was at an end. And after the final boss, where Heaven is overcoming his dark side and embraces the light side of his stigma, and all the characters begin returning to their original places on Zemuria because Celeste opened a gateway for it, I was legitimately bummed out. As I watch each pair of characters leave and go through the door, I legitimately felt a pang of sadness hit as each pair went through the door. I don't know if I'll see these characters again. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I've avoided spoilers for the rest of the games in the series because I want to go into this fresh and just completely wowed and floored when they really pull out the stops. And at one point, Ren asks, "Why are you all smiling if you're never going to see each other? Why don't we just stay here and we don't have to say goodbye?" What I thought was really cool about this scene was that it seemed like the developers kind of broke the fourth wall a little bit as Estelle responded and told her that, yeah, we may never see these people again, but that's why we look forward to seeing them again, because we don't know how they're gonna look or where they're gonna be or the stories that they're gonna tell. So we can look forward to those and enjoy those times that we have with them now, but also cherish those if we never see them again. And it was beautiful. I was like, Estelle's talking right to me, to the player. This is beautiful. And that moment reaches a crescendo when Joshua tells Ren that he and Estelle have decided that they want to be Ren's family. Sorry, I had allergies I had to deal with. Someone was cutting onions in my house. It was a beautiful scene. It was amazing. It was a scene that was 3 games in the making. Before I go any further, I want to point out that I have glossed over a lot of stuff for the sake of time in this review. I want to try and keep it under 20 minutes. But I want to say this about the Trails game so far. This is some of the best writing in gaming right now, hands down. So much so that I feel comfortable even stating that I think it's better than Persona in some ways. I know some people are probably gonna be in my comments like saying stuff about it, but at least play these games first before you come at me in the comments, so that way we can have an accurate comparison and have an intellectual conversation, a well-informed conversation about it. And I just like that. What I liked about this series was that if I wanted to know more about a character, all I had to do was talk to them or do a side quest with them or open a door with them. That's all I had to do. I didn't have to sync up our calendars together in the game to try and get more relationship points to learn more about them. And I liked the ending of this game, really the series as a whole, because it felt bittersweet. And I think Trails in the Sky the Third is not only how you end a game, but how you end a trilogy as a whole. It was masterfully done. I'd be remiss if I at least didn't give a nod to this game's music, because I think this is the best music of the trilogy. I mean, listen to the music from the final dungeon. Will also add that if you've watched this and haven't played the games yet, don't play this game on easy. To me, I played second chapter in this game on easy, and I didn't really have a problem with it in second chapter, but this game, to me, it felt like easy mode made the game too easy, save for the last boss who kicked my teeth in multiple times. I was not expecting that ramp in difficulty. And so I think going forward in the future games that I play, I'm going to play them on normal, because easy just kind of really took the challenge out of the combat to the point where I didn't feel like I got as much out of the combat as I probably should have. But even with that, I still greatly enjoyed this game. And so with that, now begins the wait for Trails from Zero in September. But as I close out this review, I want to say a few things. First, as I look back on the Sky trilogy as a whole, I really appreciate how these games were designed to build off one another, and I want to do a video later on about how reading Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson helped me understand the first Trails game better. Because honestly, I'm glad I played all 3 games, and I can certainly say that I appreciate first chapter even more now, and that if I were to replay this trilogy, I would not skip first chapter at all. I would definitely revisit it and play it through again, and probably go for some of the side stuff I missed. But second, I also want to say this. I want to thank all of you for watching these reviews, for commenting and having conversations with me, because I really appreciated your comments, because they helped me think through some different things about these games, and in doing so, it brought me to a point where I just appreciate the games more. Despite my initial video where I was really critical, y'all, for the most part, were understanding and patient with me. It's almost like y'all knew we would get to this point where I would just be like over the moon about these games and just like, wow, this is a great series. So Trails community, y'all are awesome. So what am I gonna do while I wait for September? I had considered jumping into Trails of Cold Steel 1 first, but I think what I'd like to do is play 0 first, then Cold Steel 1, then Azure, and then cap it off with Cold Steel 2. There's something about that chopped up order that seems really fascinating to me and interesting and fun. But I think what I'm going to do is definitely take a break for a little bit from the series and not jump into Cold Steel 1 just yet. I think what I'm going to do is actually visit some other JRPGs that are in my library. I'm already several hours into the next game I'll review for the channel, Mistwalker Studios' 2008 Xbox exclusive, Lost Odyssey. This is a game that I got all the way to the 4th disc on and never finished. And so I'm looking forward to finally finishing that game. Do y'all remember when like games like big JRPGs had multiple discs? What a time. What an era of gaming. And so with that, that is my review of Trails in the Sky the Third. I am so looking forward to Trails from Zero. I feel like I'm getting the title of that game wrong, but I am so looking forward to it. And waiting until September is going to be a painful wait. Thankfully, I've got other JRPGs and games to kind of keep me preoccupied in the meantime. And plus with my hobby of building Gunpla or model Gundams, I don't think the wait will be that bad. And so with that being said, what are your thoughts on Trails in the Sky the Third? What are some of your favorite moments? Who are your favorite characters? Let me know down in the comments below, and let's talk a little bit more about this game because I can't get enough of it now. So with that being said, thank you for watching. If you like this video, again, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. There's definitely gonna be more reviews coming, maybe some reaction videos to the Trails from Zero trailers. But thanks again for watching, and be a deer, keep it locked here, and I'll see you in the next video.